I'm Tiffany Souter, entrepreneur, wife, mom to 4 girls, and a woman figuring it out just like you. If you're tired of living a life of have to and finally ready to build a life of want to, then you're in the right place. Come on, let's go build your life of and. Summer oftentimes feels like a season where routines disappear and responsibilities double. The kids are home, schedules are a bit upside down, you're still working, still parenting, still trying to live with the same sense of intention, but it all just feels very full. Not broken, not burnt out, just filled to the brim. That's why this conversation with Heather Brown feels so timely. She's a mom of boys, not girls like me, a business owner, a podcaster, and a woman of deep faith, and someone who's built simple rhythms to help women live sustainably when life is full of good things, but can still be hard. We talk about her Sunday reset, which I just love, and how she thinks about food and planning, and how her postpartum experience led her to redefine what real health looks like, mentally, physically, and spiritually. If you feel like you've been trying to just hold it all together this summer while still craving a little space for yourself, I think this episode's going to feel like a great, big, deep breath. Heather Brown, thank you for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Tiffany, I'm so pumped to be here. And Tiffany and I were already connecting pre-hitting the record button because I saw that she's from Indiana and my husband is from, well, he was born and raised around Indianapolis and then lived up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So right away, I was like, you're a great Indiana Midwestern girl. This would be so fun.
That's right. I'd like to ask this question as a starting point, Heather. I, about 12 minutes ago, read your bio. All these things that you're doing, this man you're married to, these boys you have, where you live, all of these things inside of your life of and. If I were to read that to your 22-year-old self, what would she be most surprised to believe had happened in your life?
Oh, this is not probably the answer that you're looking for, but I feel like I would be like, 2 boys, what? Because I grew up with one sister. And so all I knew was having, a sister. And also, I think I want this to come across as humbly as possible, but I was just telling my husband this the other day. We bought a new house last November. So it's been 1 year that we've been here. But I still am just like, I cannot believe that I live in a home that has more than one bathroom and that I have a garage and that we live in a home that's nice because, just growing up, we didn't have much money to speak of. We were very like paycheck to paycheck, and to be able to be an entrepreneur and to have this home where we get to entertain and just live such a full life. I told him this on our last date night. I could not have believed if I look forward that my life would look like this. I truly feel so blessed. Like I could tear up very easily talking about it because I just feel so incredibly grateful for what the Lord has done in my life and in my business and just the opportunities that he has afforded us.
That's so special. What were the things that drove you in this bridge from sort of your childhood and what was impressed, what you saw and lived in this like life that you have today and wanted for your kids? Like what drove you on that bridge?
That's such a good question. Like so deep, Tiffany. Clearly you do this a lot. My grandfather was actually a self-made millionaire and had his own business. And so I always knew the value of work and what that looked like. And my parents actually, I thought, did a really good job of having me and my sister. As soon as we got to be 15, we were expected to get a job, which I saw, Tiffany, that you also have worked basically since you were a little girl as well, starting your own businesses and stuff. But I think I've just learned to be scrappy and I don't quit. Like I'm going to keep showing up. And so I think that I had seen like the cap that maybe my parents had. And I didn't know if I would, even if I worked hard and even if I was scrappy, I didn't know if I could break through that cap. And so I'm just so grateful that my parents and my grandparents did, save money and invested and sent me to college and that I got to meet my husband there. And I feel like even some of the lessons that I learned through, working hard and being in marketing and all these things, I could have made good money. But if I hadn't married Eric, who is really good with investments and like his dad was the president of a bank, I feel like I could have earned the money and been a good saver, but I wouldn't have known how to invest and how to project revenues and then how to grow a team and how to, make your money work for you. And so I really feel like a lot of those factors have probably led to the success that I have today, not to mention just the Lord has gone before it and blessed it. And I truly feel called to be in this ministry. And so I think the Lord has just gone before me and done more than I could have ever imagined on my own.
That's really special. Okay, I want to talk one more big picture question, and then we'll kind of start diving into like actually what you teach. But I was thinking like, I have a little bit of a window into your life just in the sense of you're kind of generally in one place, speaking into a microphone, typing into the internet, like trying to help people in a really genuine way. And I was like, I wonder how you would answer this question. If you were like walking through a restaurant and you overheard somebody talking about your podcast, your content, and like the impact it had had on their life, what would you be most excited to hear them say? I'm kind of using this as a way to like frame up for people, because you do a lot inside the topic of health. I'm like, what would you love to say? This is the impact my work had on their life.
Yeah, for sure. I'll draw from this on some of the direct messages that I get that really impact me deeply or move me to tears. And it would be even more cool to overhear it in a coffee shop, to your point. I love this question. But when people say to me, Heather, I walked away from the church many years ago, or I haven't opened my Bible in 5 years, or I just didn't really know if, and they might use the term religion, or I didn't know if any of that was for me, but I followed your account because I liked your Amazon finds. And I liked how you talked about, getting your steps in or intermittent fasting or whatever the health and, shopping elements of the Instagram account are. But they're like, but what I realized is why I kept coming back was because you have hope. Like you show up in stories and I can tell that you are, and I don't want to use the word happy. A lot of times they'll say that word. They'll be like, you're just so happy. Like I like hearing your happy Energizer Bunny self. But what I tell them is like, that's not happiness. That's ultimately joy, because I've had a lot of hard things happen in my life. And we just lost my mother-in-law to dementia/Alzheimer's about a year ago. And I have really walked through a lot of grief over the past 2 to 3 years. But at the end of the day, I know where my hope lies. And so if someone said, which they have, like, I am now going back to a small group, or my neighbor invited me to church and I was open to go because I saw what it seems like you have online and I want to feel that back in my life again. That to me is like, oh, I mean, if just one person ever said that to me, it's like my whole life, the whole mission has been accomplished. So anytime I hear that, it is just a incredible, incredible blessing to me.
This is really sweet to see your emotion, even in talking about it. So thanks for sharing that. It's really sweet.
For sure. I mean it.
Well, I feel like that's actually a great kind of jumping off point to you talk about this triple threat triangle, and I'll let you speak to it. But I think you have a background as like fitness instructor, as we often start in our teens and 20s is on our bodies as women, and started to realize a deep connection to the rest of your life. So kind of walk us through maybe your evolution a little bit and how this triple threat triangle, how we need to think about that in our own lives as we're busy professional women pursuing all of the amazing things that life has to bring. How do we do that in a way that it's sustainable and, as you would describe, kind of healthy?
Yeah, for sure. So Tiffany's talking about the mind, body, spirit health. That is what the triple threat triangle is. I literally walk through how you can tackle each thing intentionally for your mental health, for your spiritual health, and for your physical health. But I did start off teaching Pure Barre, which is a ballet bar-based workout. It fuses Pilates, yoga, and a very athletic approach to ballet. And I taught that for 10 years and I trained our instructors on it. I absolutely loved it. It was kind of my part-time job while I was doing a full-time job and just starting my blog. Only at the time, there was no Instagram back then. And I just fell in love with it because it was the first time that I had found something that made me be very aware and in my body and in my mind at the same time when I was working out. Because before I'd been to spin classes and they would just be like, pedal faster, like go harder, or I'd been to a body pump class and they're just jamming to the music. But Pure Barre for the first time made me realize like, okay, I'm moving. They're telling me to go down an inch, up an inch. But what that means is I have to engage my mind into my quads, which is the top of your thighs. And I have to think, lower down my body 1 inch and then contract the top of my thighs to lift me back up. And so you're not really able, if you're fully engaged mentally in your body in that class, to think about anything else, any of the stressors outside the world. You really are just kind of like very present in your body. So that was maybe the first time that I started to understand the mind body connection. And y'all, it's only grown from there. It is so wild and so cool how God has designed your body and your mind to work together. And in fact, there's new research coming out from some universities in Europe saying that even like people that are depressed or struggle with anxiety, that if they even go outside and walk and move their body for as short as 20 minutes a day, then it can have the same type of effects as their anti-anxiety or antidepressant medications. So to say that your mind and your body are interconnected, it's wow to the level that they are. Very, very cool. Then, I got pregnant and I had my first little boy, Leighton. And in that delivery, I actually had a 4th-degree tear, which for those of you that are not familiar, it's when you rip from one end to the other. It's the worst kind that you can have. And my OBGYN was like, okay, well, you did have a 4th-degree tear, and she's, just sewing me out. That's what she does every day. And she's like, so you won't walk past your mailbox for 6 weeks and you'll be okay. We're just going to, and she's like, okay, let's move on. And it kind of like I couldn't process it, like after birth, all the things. I went home with Leighton and I didn't have any idea what postpartum depression or anxiety looked like. And I have always been this perky, bubbly, like I said, energizer personality. And so for me to be taken away from people and be kept in my home for 6 weeks, me and a baby, no work, no movement, no outside other than just on my front porch swing, and just isolated was the lowest I have ever been in my entire life. I was crying multiple times every day. I mean, I was bleeding from everywhere that you can imagine. Nursing was a struggle. And I just remember when Eric would come home from work and I would just be a wreck, like a mess and just sobbing. And he would try to be so encouraging. And he'd be like, babe, literally like your only job, the only thing you have to worry about doing right now is taking care of yourself and taking care of the baby. And you're doing a great job of that. But to me, I was like, but that's not who I was a week ago. And that's not who I know that I want to be. And I was just so confused and lost. And I felt like I don't even know who I am anymore. It was really, really a dark time. And so as I was like in this deep despair, I actually went back to the doctor. She put me on medication for postpartum depression. But I knew, and I think this was just the Lord like prompting me, like, I need to be with people. And so what I did was I started every Sunday. I was like, I'm really good at meal planning. I worked at a meal planning company for years. And that almost just like gave me this sense of purpose of something else that I was doing that I'd done back in the day. I was like, okay, and I know I need to see people. And so I would start to text friends or family and just be like, hey, I see that you're signed up for the Take Them a Meal on Tuesday. Is there any way that you would be willing to come over and just have coffee with me and chat for a little bit too? So then it was like, now while I'm meal planning, I'm going to take care of my mental health and get that people connection that I need.
I actually want to double click on, Heather, I think there's this moment you talked about where you were like, I miss my old life. I miss understanding my days. I miss understanding my relationship with my time and my goals and the pace and progress of things. I'm filling in some of my own experience with that season. I remember every time I had a baby, I do not like that season where everything is so disruptive. And it's kind of like a little bit of me wants to go back to before I had it, because I knew how to be, I knew that program. I knew who I was in that world. I understood those ages of those kids in that order and all the things that, and I just want to like normalize it, because I think it can be a really scary thing to talk about and to say out loud, because you're kind of supposed to be in the season where you're like, want to lay on the couch and just smell your new baby and you're so grateful for the life. And you are like, it's a miracle, the most incredible responsibility that we could be given to raise this child and all these kinds of things. And also it's weird because everything that you knew in your life is now appended, and we don't like say it, I think. And I just want to just normalize that. I'm expressing a little bit of what I felt in those seasons. It doesn't mean you're an unfit mom. It doesn't mean that you're ungrateful. It doesn't mean that you don't love what God has blessed you with. It doesn't mean any of those things. It's just sometimes is the reaction to like life as I knew it is totally over.
You're mourning it a little bit,
Yeah.
really. So all that to say, on the other side of the 6 weeks, when I started to be able to move again and I was cleared and all those things, I was like, okay, I learned some really valuable lessons back there. And that was really freaking hard. Number one, perhaps exercise is an idol in my life. Maybe I need to think about that. I was so upset that I could not run to exercise to get the endorphins, to feel better, to normalize, how I was, my emotions and everything we're feeling. So that's even become part of just like a practical thing now that I do in the Sunday reset where, I literally sit down on Sunday, and it doesn't have to be Sunday for you. It could be Monday or Friday or whatever day what works best for you and your family. To me, the Sunday reset and the triple threat triangle is all about living an intentional life. And at the end of the day, I feel like there are so many people, and it's going to step on some toes. And I'm sorry if I step on your toes. You can come gripe me out in my DMs if you want to. But ultimately, there's so many people in the church who are sitting in the pew every Sunday, and they're committed, and they're probably doing their devotional more than me. They're probably having longer worship than me, but they also are not taking care of the physical body that God has given them, which he has told us is a temple, which we are told to use to serve him. And so I feel like there's such a disconnect between the church and the health world where it's like neither one of us have it right. But the church has got to realize that just like if you showed up every Sunday or once a month and you check the box, you're probably not going to have a great relationship with the Lord. But on the flip side, if you only show up at the gym once a week or once every 3 weeks and you check that box, you're also not going to be fit and feeling good and having good energy. So my goal when people come into the Healthy by Heather Brown world is not to say, I'm going to help you have the best fitness journey of your life and you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days and you're going to do this, that, and the other. It's like, no. I just want you to find a healthy lifestyle that is attainable for years to come. I want you to not hate exercise anymore. I want you to try different things and find something that is sustainable for you that you like showing up to, and really just to encourage women day by day, choice by choice, to be intentional once a week, to set themselves up to be the most intentional mom, friend, daughter, wife, believer that they can be.
How long does your Sunday reset take you? Like, is there like an agenda that you follow? I don't mean to be so nerdy about it, but I am very naturally undisciplined and get distracted. And so I have to have these things that are like traps that keep my present self blessing my future self.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So this feels like one of those hacks. So like, can you be very literal with me and listeners about like what this looks like, what time of day you find it works best for you? And maybe it moves a lot or maybe it's the same, but like walk us through your actual one.
Yeah, for sure. So I will say that if you join the Healthy by Heather Brown membership, I have an 8-part video course where I literally spend an hour walking through each point of the triple threat triangle and how that plays out in your Sunday reset. And I also then have a workbook that is printable, print it out and use it as a guideline to go through. Now, I would say that it changes from season to season, kind of like what you were saying. My Sunday reset right now is 30 minutes because that's what I have. I don't have much time, but I do need to get a plan in place. That's the thing about this. When I don't Sunday reset, it's like I can't afford not to because Eric and I have miscommunication. So then we're upset with each other. He thinks that we're doing such and such for dinner on this night. And then he forgot that we have this small group party on Thursday night. So it's like, even once I do the Sunday reset, we talk about it. We're on the same page. It's communication. But then I also text him a recap of what's coming up that week, what we're eating and where we're going. But to answer your question, though, specifically, I would say that typically we go to church on Sunday morning, we come home, we eat lunch, and then the kids usually go outside and play with a neighbor. Eric's kind of watching football. Maybe he's napping if he was on call the night before. And that's when I sit down and I'm pulling out all the calendars and I'm, looking at the week ahead and figuring out what everybody needs. And I'm simultaneously making my grocery list. Now, I know a lot of people like to do, Instacart or Shipt. Great. That's going to save you even more time. But I'm making my grocery list to physically go in the store And I also am making the list of things that have got to happen. I would say now, in general, I would spend out about 45 minutes unless we're having a major season change. So like if we're starting up a soccer schedule or we're going into the summer and I'm like, oh man, we got to have a major overhaul. I've got to figure out the new game plan, what worked last, season isn't going to work anymore. That's when I might sit down and be like, this is going to be an hour to an hour and 30 minutes because I'm going to lose my mind. But that hour and a half, it's going to save me countless
totally
hours going forward, and also arguments with my husband. So
yeah, I would say a version of your Sunday reset. I want to add meal planning to it. I think that would help me. But we do a family meeting every Sunday night. It is a set in stone. If somebody's traveling, you're calling in. Like this is where everything I've like pre-planned, but it's like, what don't I have on the calendar? Who's taking you to practice? Who's dropping you up? Who's running carpool? Is somebody picking you up from school? Do you need to grab a snack? Everybody has to run their own train.
So good.
Because once we leave Sunday, I'm busy. I don't do same day changes. You know what I mean? Like this was your shot. I can make you a quesadilla the night before if I know about it, but I'm not going to be home at 1:14, to do it for you so you have it after school. So that family meeting has kept, as my kids got older and I had less like visibility into everything they were doing, it was like that loop up point of like, what have we missed? Does everybody know what's happening? Does everybody feel safe and prepared for the week ahead?
Yes, that is so good. And I love hearing, because some of the mamas in my community, they have older kids too. And so they'll even send me pictures of like their family meeting where everybody's talking about it and the kids are weighing in more on the meal plan and all that kind of stuff. I think it's so awesome. And y'all, the great thing too about the meal plan is, because people always hear meal plan and they think like, wants me to make 7 recipes and make it all complicated. But y'all, truly, a meal plan means just writing down what you're eating that night. So if it's Chick-fil-A, great, write it down. But now if you are worried about something being gluten-free or you're, trying to track macros or you're doing whatever your health and wellness plan is, then you can think ahead. What should I get at Chick-fil-A while I'm in the right frame of mind, while I know what I'm going to be eating probably for lunch that day to make sure that I still hit those goals? And I feel like you just have so much more intentionality. Whereas if you just run to the drive-thru last minute because you're stressed, then you're going to be like, I want the extra large fries and I want the milkshake and I want you know what I mean? So
I also think it takes micro solving out of the day.
Yes.
That is such a heavy load for my brain. Just go ahead and let your Sunday self decide that your Wednesday self is going to go through the drive-thru. Like, then you don't have to feel guilty about it. You don't have to make that choice. It's already made and you're just managing choices that you made in a very confined. I find that such an easier way to do the week. I totally agree with you.
Absolutely. So I mentioned that I used to work for emeals.com, which is a meal planning company, and the founder and the former owner of it, she always called it decision-making pain. And so she was like, meal plan for the week, you eliminate your decision-making pain all throughout the week. And I was like, as a mom now of 2, I'm like, I get it. When I didn't have any kids, I was like, what?
It's so true. It's so, so true.
And I will say too, Tiffany, a lot of times people ask me when we talk about meal planning, what does that look like though practically? If you can simplify and eat, like Eric and I will decide, like, are we making rice? Are we making couscous? Are we doing like whatever the big thing is? We typically make some kind of rice at the beginning of the week, so it's there for all week long. We also are buying whatever vegetables are on sale that week at the grocery store. And I'm a big shopper at Sprouts. Sprouts has, at least ours does, I don't know if everyone does, but they have so many amazing manager markdowns. So Sprouts and Aldi are the 2 places that I feel like you can get the best bang for your buck on healthy food, if you need recommendations on that. And then also we do tend to plan to cook 3 nights a week. And then that means that, one night maybe we get pizza or the Chick-fil-A drive-thru or whatever. And the rest of the nights are leftovers. And then Sunday night is usually clean out the pantry and the fridge night. So it's like Sunday, I don't have to think about, at least 1 or 2 other nights I don't got to think about. And it just helps so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that so much, so much, so much. Well, Heather, this has been amazing. Thanks for being vulnerable at the beginning and sharing some tips with us. Just love the work that you're doing and appreciate how you are, I just like very clearly your authentic self, and God has allowed that to come through really clearly today. So thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. It was so much fun. And y'all, if you had fun with me, please come say hi on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you guys over there at Healthy by Heather Brown. So that'd be so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put all the links in the show notes for you. Go check it out. It's very fun. I really enjoyed it. And you get to see the whole fam jam a little bit over there too. So
that's great.
Thanks so much, Heather. Thanks for coming on. I love that Heather said her reset isn't just about food. It's about intentionality. And I think many of us are craving that, a way to move through the week without feeling like it's moving through us, to move to this proactive way, not just like absorbing and reacting to everything. Whether you're meal planning, setting your family calendar, or just trying to be more present in your faith, this episode reminded me that tiny systems, tiny decisions, tiny increments of things that are easy create big, big peace. So this week, maybe give yourself permission to pre-decide something, dinner, a margin block, or a workout that's more about joy than intensity and results. If this conversation sparks something in you, I would love it if you would share it with a friend or send me a DM. I always love to hear what rhythms and routines and things that are impacting you as you build your own life of and. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening to The Life of And. This is your weekly reminder to keep making bold choices, saying clear yeses, and holding space for what matters most. As always, if you like this episode, I'd love for you to drop a review and share it with your friend. It's the fastest way that we can grow the show. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time.